Morning. Good morning. Thank you guys for being on time. Got some other people cascading in, I know, from some other groups, some other meetings coming in. Hope everybody's having a wonderful day. I hope for you guys who can, if you're in front of your computer and you have your My 25 list in front of you, I think it's a wonderful thing to do is to grab those today because I think we're going to continue to build off of what we talked about last week. And then we're going to talk about how to set ourselves up to be doing more calls and outreach to both our My 25 and making sure that we're doing our 50 collisions um, that we're looking for to see who we're interviewing to replace people in our My 25. And so how we can take advantage of those calls. I'm going to share some scripting today. We're going to go over how to have those conversations. So we're going to cover a lot of ground. And then we're going to continue to build on this as we go and kind of circle back to some more of the in-depth skill set parts of it. Cool. So if you have your My 25 in front of you, so the first thing we're trying to do here is we're trying to create more organic feeling collisions. Okay. So a couple different things right now. There's a lot of things that you could feel like are happening to you right now as a loan officer in terms of the market and the world and everything else. And I get that. The best way that I have ever found, there's two ways really that I've ever found to shake some of that off, are one is to take action. Motion creates positive emotion. And so the more stuff that you are doing, and every time you do the hard, brave thing to make the calls or do the other things, you become a little bit stronger, a little bit braver. And by the way, it brings joy and satisfaction to your life because you know you did that thing. And every time you do the easy or cowardly thing of not doing the prospecting or making the calls, that becomes its own thing too. And then you start to feel cowardly and weak. And so the reason why we're doing these power hours or leaning in this direction is because it's easier to do the hard things with people than without them, but it breeds the same emotional response, right? So it's still, it's not less satisfying to spend an hour calling potential recruits because I did it with a group of people than whether I did it by myself. But I can make a bunch of excuses for myself if I'm alone. If I'm doing it with a bunch of other people, I'm going to lean in. And so we're going to continue to lean on each other to create the habits and behaviors that are going to lead to us feeling good. And here's the thing, guys. Wherever you're at with your business right now is where we deserve to be. It's where you deserve to be. It's where we deserve to be, right? All of this is about making ourselves more worthy of being able to take advantage of the opportunities that are coming. And so the behaviors, the things you do today and the work you do on yourself are making you worthy of the opportunities that are coming. And so as you think about kind of, oh man, Mark didn't tell me I got to call a bunch of realtors. It's like, I'm not telling you have to do anything. I'm just telling you if you want a different result, these are the activities that are going to lead to it. And by the way, it will make you feel better. You will be a happier person for having done this stuff, not while you're doing it, but as soon as you're done. There's a sign in my gym in my complex where I live, and it says, no one has ever regretted a workout. And it's true, right? You never leave the gym and you're like, man, I can't believe I wasted that time, right? No, you have a rush. You put the work in, you did the thing, you leave feeling good. And so these power hours are our work style workouts that are going to lead to those great feelings of accomplishment and are going to make us worthy of the results that will come when we do it. And so get your head in that headspace as we go through it today, which is like, this should be exciting. We're preparing ourselves to do the workouts that are going to lead to the positive results and the positive feelings that are going to come along with it. All right. So number one thing I want you to keep in mind when making phone calls, cold calls, I should say. It's better to make lukewarm calls than cold calls. Okay. One of the best things that you can do to build relationships with people is to ask them to do small things for you. Let me say that again. We always want to deliver value. But if you can ask somebody to do a small thing for you, right, it makes them feel really good. And one of the ways that you guys will feel really good is, by the way, we're going to try to deliver value on these conversations. The more value that you bring to your referral partners, buying them a copy of Ninja Selling, helping them with their own recruiting, inviting them to Power Hour, inviting them to our sales trainings, which we're going to talk about. You provide them value, you'll feel good too, right? And this will get you in that positive emotion. But we want to make our cold calls lukewarm calls. How do we do that? So if you have your by the way, so anybody here ever ask a realtor, do you know any other realtors I might be able to work with? How often do they have like 6 names ready to go for you when you ask that question? Wes says yes. I have not had that experience. Generally, I have people go like, yeah, maybe this person, maybe that person. They're like kind of not as excited about it as I was hope. Okay. I've had the same experience on recruiting, especially with operations people. But one thing I watched Rich do very successfully is that when we've gone out to hire an operations person, he'll go and get a list off of LinkedIn or off some consulting company, be like, here are the top people who they think do this job. And then you go to somebody else and you go, hey, do you know anyone on this list? And suddenly they're like, oh, I know these 5 people. Here's what I know about them. Here's who you should talk to. Here's who you shouldn't talk to. So you guys now have your My 25 lists. You also have a list, by the way, of everyone we've ever sent a 13 by 32. So if you go to your favorite referral partner right now and you're like, hey, one of the things I'm really working on is expanding my referral base, and I want to be able to have more referral partners in the area. Do you mind if I show you this list of people I'm potentially interested in pursuing? I'd like to know if you know any of these people or could give me any insight. Now, does anybody know anybody who they have a real relationship with who wouldn't be excited to kind of talk a lot of shit or dish a little dirt about the other realtors on your list? No, they're going to be excited to see who's on your list, right? They're going to be like, yeah, I want to see your list. I'll tell you if I know those people, right? So thank you so much. You're helping me out, right? So now they go through your list and they're like, don't know this person. Oh, I know them. They're really good. I dealt with them on a deal. I dealt with them on a deal. And then I say, hey, would you mind if I told this person when I called that you said some nice things about them? And they're like, no, of course not, right? So now I go through my 25. Let's say there's 8 people on there that this person thinks something nice about that we're going through, right? Now when I call these 8 people in my 25, or I call the people that are not in my 25, I'm going to make the list as long as you want. Take everybody you put in Total Expert in your name, show them the list, right? Now all of a sudden I call that person. It's a cold call. I haven't talked to them before. And I say, hey, now I'm saying the reason for, hey, hello, John. Great, John. The reason for my call is I was doing some prospecting accountability work with realtor so-and-so. And I mentioned that you were somebody I wanted to get in touch with. And they said that you were absolutely awesome and I should definitely reach out. Now that is a way to take a cold call and make it lukewarm. You've taken a mutual person you both know, and you've said, this person told me awesome things about you, and so I wanted to reach out and introduce myself. And then you can get into a very easy conversation. How do you know so-and-so, right? And now you put the onus on them to tell a story about how they know this person, and then they're going to say the nice things about that person. And now all of a sudden you're going to look for ways to create value, right? And we're going to talk about what that is, and we're going to focus specifically on the 2-1 buy downs this week in terms of how to have that conversation and create value. I actually have a link that I'll post up on YouTube. I had a conversation with a realtor that I know here in Charleston with the 2-1 buy down, and she actually taught me some things on this call that if you go and watch it, I'll send the link out, that I did not know about how real estate listings work. You guys may know this stuff, but there's like a whole different like public notes and private notes, and you can put all sorts of things on those private notes that only other realtors can see that are not in the public notes that can help them sell you as a loan officer or the 2-1 buy down program. So we talk about that a little in the YouTube video, and I'll get into that as far as we go with the training. But I had one phone call with one realtor that I knew, start having these conversations, and I learned some stuff that I can use, that I can also teach other realtors, that'll both be a benefit to me and to them. And because I went in with genuine curiosity. You can see that video, we recorded it. I'm going to start doing a weekly series with this person. We'll start talking about some of the topics that we're going to do training on every week so that we can get some more context and you can see how I have some of those conversations with realtors. This will definitely be the worst one because it's the first one, but I still think there's some value in it. So again, to recap, we have these cold calls, right? We want to make these collisions, right? So cool. These people that we want to connect with. I want to put those people on a list, and I want to take my most trusted referral partners, and I want to call them and say, Mark, you are my most trusted referral partner. I've been doing this with you for a long time. I really trust your opinion. I'm looking to find other people I can work with where I can have a similar relationship to the amazing one I have with you. Do you mind if I show you a list of some realtors that I'd be interested in meeting with to see if you know any of them and you could provide me any insight or details? Of course, man. I'd be happy to look at the list for you. Great. They look at the list. You're then going to call up and the other person and say, this person said wonderful things about you. I wanted to introduce myself, right? Does that already feel like a call that you would be more excited to make than, hi, I'm Mark. I think you're cool and I want to do some business with you? Of course, right? That's easier. Now imagine you take that same list to all of the realtors that you know, plus the title guy that's your friend, right? You guys all know somebody at a title company that knows a million realtors, right? Now you go to your title person, your closing attorney, wherever you are. And all of these are conversations like, hey, I'm looking for some new people to build relationships with. If you just ask them for names, They have trouble remembering this. It's like when you ask for referrals, right? If you ask somebody, hey, do you know anybody who might need a loan? They're gonna be like, not really. But if you say to somebody, hey, is there anyone on your softball team that might be looking to buy a house over the next year? When you make the funnel smaller, suddenly they'll be like, oh yes, I did hear that so-and-so was buying a home next year, right? It's the same thing with this. So instead of saying to your referral partners, hey, do you know anybody I could work with? They're like, oh, there's a million names out there. It's like, hey, this is the list. Who on here do you know that you think is pretty cool or not? So I don't waste my time, right? And so they're gonna be excited to deliver that information. Now you guys all know people. So even if you like Mark, I only have 1 or 2 realtors that you're comfortable doing this with. Ask the title guy, ask your homeowner's insurance person, ask the local inspector. By the way, all of those people want to talk to you because they want you to refer them, right? So they're like dying to deliver you value when you have this conversation. So today, after this training, I want you to make a list. Who are the people that know other people in this community that if I showed them a list would be somebody that I'd be willing to say, hey, this person said nice things about you. That's why I called. So if you know a title guy and you're like, that person's a jerk, no one likes them, you don't want to do this with them because you don't want to call people and say, hey, the jerk of the title company said I should call you, right? You want to find the people that are the most liked and respected that you have that relationship with in your community to show them your list and have that conversation with. My guess is if you went to, whether you're newer to this or you've been doing it for a while, if you went to 5 people that you knew with your list, you would probably have targets for warm conversations for at least 50 collisions for this quarter right out of the gate, and you could do it this week. You'd know who to call and who to have the conversations with this week, and you'd be able to work it into your script. Anybody have any thoughts, questions, or reasons why this may not be a great idea or why they think it's great, or if they've done it before? Any feedback from the group at all? You're at work. It's okay to be a proactive participant.
Mark,
I'll add. Who else
Go
is
ahead,
that? Chat.
Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah.
I've done this before. It works. It's something that we've talked about before, especially with like title companies. I find them being the ones who are the most open to introducing you to people because it also helps them close the loop on the relationship of the agent that either they want to work with or they are working with. Most agents are fine with it. I will say that there are some jealous agents that I've walked across that it's like, they don't really give you much. But the title companies seem to work great.
Yeah, listen, the introduction, by the way, it's funny. So the introduction thing is a big ask. It just is. If someone asks me to introduce them to somebody, I like really assess if I think that's a good idea or not. And if I'm not 100% sure this is a positive introduction for both people, I'm not doing it. Right? There's too much risk for me in that. Right? If someone asks me for my opinion on somebody or for some information about them, it's a very small ask. Happy to do that all day. And so I think that's one of the major differences of this is like, yes, I think if you have somebody that you have a relationship with at a title company or homeowners guy, like, hey, introduce me to this person. I know some people who love making those introductions and that's easier. Right. But I actually think that's probably something that'll happen. It's it's probably going to be a limited resource. But people are very loose with their opinions, very loose with their information. And so they'll tell you what they think of people, and that's all you need. That would be a warm or hot lead if someone did an introduction. What we're trying to do is take cold leads and make them lukewarm. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen with some of this stuff. I'm still working on this. Unfortunately, I've had a very intense week of lots of calling and scripting. So I haven't had the chance to, I've chosen to prioritize my time on finishing other things. So this is my script, but here are the things I want you to keep in mind. We're trying to make this lukewarm, not hot, right? Hey, so-and-so said I should reach out. And that's all you're looking for is permission on both sides. Or so-and-so said nice things about you. And so I thought I'd call and introduce myself, right? And the more you do this, by the way, the easier it becomes because the more people you will know and the more people you'll know who know somebody, right? And here's the other pieces, guys. We tell ourselves a lot of stories. I happened to have the opportunity to share a couple of drinks last night with one of the top 10 realtors in Charleston. And she told me who she used as a mortgage person. It was somebody I had never heard of before. It was her mortgage person. She's used them for years. I said, why? She said, well, they're kind of nice. I was like, great, it's ringing endorsement. And she's like, well, you have any frustration? She's like, yeah, a lot of times I send this person in business and they can't get the deals done, right? And so this loan officer happens to work for a big bank that is pretty limited in the things that they'll do and not do. They have lack of options. And so my point on this is just say to you guys, like, hey, we tell us a lot of stories like, oh, this person's literally a top 10 realtor in Charleston, which by the way, means you're making millions of dollars a year. She drives a black G-Wagon. She's crushing it. And she has a loan officer that she uses because they're nice. You can provide so much more value than nice, right? And so whatever stories you're being told on this stuff, these are the things that make you worthy of it. By the way, a realtor will respect the fact that you're doing that prospecting work they know they should be doing on this, especially if you come in with a lead in. If you have a story, I was talking to so and so, who's one of my favorite referral partners, and she mentioned that she'd worked with you on a deal last year, and that, you know, specifically this thing about you. And so I was intrigued and I wanted to reach out, right? And so if you can make that organic and make it feel the way, by the way, this takes some skill and some thought and some putting time into it. People will be very attracted to you doing this because they know it's hard. It makes you worthy of their business in a different way, right? So a couple of other things to keep in mind when we're making these calls. Make it lukewarm. 2, you are not looking for a loan on this call. 2 things if you're looking for a loan on this call. 1 is you'll have commission breath. You'll push everybody away. We're trying to attract. You're going to push people away. 2, this makes the rejection really intense. If you're calling today thinking you're going to get loans out of it, then when you don't get any loans, it's a failure. It makes you stop doing it. It's why most people don't do these calls on a regular basis. If you do this saying, I'm hoping to meet 1 or 2 people today that I'd like to have at least one more conversation with, then it can be a huge win in success and it will help you build the momentum you need to keep going. So no commission breath. Expectation is that these calls today are going to lead to a loan 2 months from now, not from today. You got to go with that mindset. Okay. 2 months from now is soon. It'll be here before you know it. 3, people like to talk about themselves and they like compliments. They also like the sound of their own name. Okay. So anytime we can find, we want to lead into this when we say something authentic about them that you actually appreciate. Now, what people don't like is phony compliments. Anybody ever get a compliment from somebody they knew wasn't true, or at least they didn't think it was true about themselves? Immediately you like want to like punch the person, right? You feel like you're having a bad hair day. Someone's like, your hair looks great. And you're like, whatever. No, it doesn't. You know, you like it's got to be genuine and authentic. It's got to come from a good place. Okay. Say their name. Let them talk about themselves. Be genuinely curious, radically curious. Be radically curious about what's going on with this other person and what you can learn from them. Okay. Make it about them. Questions, thoughts. As you'll see here, this is how I do my scripting. If you don't like mine, write your own. What you cannot do and will never convince people to work for you is not having a script. There are a couple of things for you. I would really recommend you use mine for a while and then change it if you don't like it. Like use it for 6 weeks and then change it if you don't like it. So I think it's much easier to iterate from somebody else's script than it is to try to build your own. Okay. When you're not feeling good or your confidence is down or you're having a bad day, the only thing that will help you in that first 15 seconds of that call, which by the way, everything is about the energy you bring to your first 15 seconds, and I can give you all sorts of data and research on it, is you being ultra confident, okay? But again, man, you're having a bad day and you're being enthusiastic. The only way to seem confident is to know what you're going to say before the person answers the phone, why you need a script. And the only way to have energy, even when you're in a bad mood, is to only have one way you do it every single time. So when I was in the call center, I could be having the worst day and be in the worst mood. But when someone answered, it was, hello, John, right away. And I'm changing my mood instantly. Because by the way, if they're at a 5 and they get a random phone call, now they're at a 3 in terms of their energy level. If I'm at a 5, they're going to stay at a 3. But if I'm at a 9 and I can pull them back up to a 6, suddenly everyone I'm talking to all day long is in a better mood than the people that you're talking to. So I want to control the energy and the mood, and I want to be confident because I have a way. You need to have a way. Okay? So say, hello, John. This is John. Hey, John, this is Mark Gordon over at Princeton Mortgage. How are you today? I'm good. How are you? I'm great. Thanks for asking. I want to be enthusiastic. I want to bring Walt Disney World energy of enthusiasm because the phone sucks that energy out. Right? You ever like the phone, like bring it. You're having a great day. You want to attract people to you. Who are you more attracted to? People who are happy or people who are sad or angry? You want to be in a great mood. The reason I'm calling is you caught my attention, something personal, somebody recommended you, so-and-so is my friend and they said good things about you, and you seem like somebody I should connect with. Take the word definitely out. Still working it. And then I would stop, let them speak. If they don't say anything, whatever, I think they'll drive the conversation, but you want to be listening. Active listening for things that they might be interested in or clues to how to generate the call. You also want to be listening for their mood and enthusiasm, right? How busy they are. It doesn't mean you want to acquiesce to whatever their mood is. If they seem like they're not in a great mood, you're like, can I call you back later? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you want to be in tune with where they are so you learn how to respond, right? And we want to be responding, not reacting. So if they seem like they're in a bad mood and we're like, oh, well, then that's reacting, not responding. How do I want to respond? How do I want to change this direction of this conversation? And remember, what I'm trying to get out of this is alone 2 months from now. So I'm not married to how this conversation goes. This isn't to be a long conversation to be a success. This conversation needs to leave a door open to a second and third, easier conversation. I want this person to walk away being like, now I know Mark Gordon and I kind of like that guy. That's it. That's all I need from having this conversation. It's a very easy time to have a conversation about the market. Ask people, what are you seeing? Have you noticed a difference? What have you learned? Any thoughts about how you think things are headed? Where are the trends going? Right? And by the way, you can also point them to source materials, right? Hey, I don't know, but this, well, here's what I saw. Here's this thing I read. By the way, Dan is sending you guys things you can send to people. Hey, I saw this and thought of you for that individual personalization going forward. We're just trying to keep this door open. Now, again, what we don't, by the way, do we want to talk about the market and go like, oh yeah, it sucks. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm freaking out. I got no loans. No. Be like, hey, it's going to be a tough one. I'm really happy that, I have the support of my team here at Princeton. We're doing some things and I'm really excited about the opportunity that's going to come as some other people get out of the business or, I think we're positioned to be able to take advantage of some of the things that are happening in this market. I think we have some really great programs that are like the 2-1 buy down that are going to specialize or be specializations in this market. Talk about the positive things that you're doing and how you're prepared for what's coming. Does that make sense? We want to lead this person. Wow, that everyone else I'm talking to is having a really bad day. Mark seems to be really calm and have it all figured out. Not like in a pretentious way, just in an optimistic way. How much of this seems hard so far? Which part of this is giving anybody anxiety? Like, man, I don't know if I can do that part. Katie, tell me where the stress comes. Come on, Katie, talk to us.
I'm just still getting courage to make the calls.
Tell me your biggest fear. What could happen if you make the call? By the way, this is you building courage to talk during a sales training right now. You're doing it. You're going to make it.
Nothing. It just gives me anxiety. Like it's new to me. So I just have to push past it.
Yes, that feeling that you're having in this instance is the feeling of growth. It's no different than when you're at the gym and you're pushing through and you're getting that lactic acid burn or you're on a run or you're pushing through it. That feeling you're having is your body pushing through to a place where you're going to grow. And so there is no growth if you're comfortable. Comfortability is the absence of growth. And so you should lean into that anxiety feeling. You should be excited about it. It means I have an opportunity to be brave and push through. And yes, I get it. By the way, my favorite thing to do in the world is public speaking. I was in Alabama with Diana's group a couple weeks ago. I was getting on stage with a bunch of realtors. And the guy who went before me kind of stepped on some of the stuff I was planning to do. And I had this anxiety feeling for a minute. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm alive. This is it. I'm going in. Right. And if you can channel that to ooh, yes, this is my opportunity to do something a little difficult and to become a little bit braver and a little bit stronger. You frame for yourself that way, you start to look forward to that feeling. Right. This is my shot to push through. I played pretty high level rugby before I moved down here to South Carolina. And the anxiety that I would get before going up against a really good team, one that you knew was better than you, or against a player playing a position on the other side who was really good, man, I miss that. I would do anything to have that feeling this Saturday for a rugby game. Like that is the moment you're like, I'm going to get better today. This person is going to challenge me. I'm going to see some things I haven't seen before. I never got excited, or I don't miss the feeling of kicking the crap out of a bad team. My favorite games I ever played are the ones that we lost to the best possible teams, so they got to stay in the field with those guys. Right. And so I say that because that anxiety, that's a choice, right? You either become the person who's constantly looking to be comfortable. And I always say, my example of this is, I don't know if you guys have a dog, but my dog will circle the pillow 7 times to find the way that is the most comfortable position. Sometimes she lays down, it's not perfect. She'll get back up and do it again. As human beings, we are always looking for more comfortable, but comfortable does not lead to differentiated results. Being willing to be uncomfortable is what does. And I'll say some of us have been motivated by things like fear, right? For most of my career, the thing that motivated me to do the things I wasn't eager to do was afraid of failure, afraid of not being successful, afraid of not being able to take care of a family, afraid of not being as good as the kids I went to high school with, right? It was real fear driving it. It's much more fun to come from a place of love and enthusiasm for it, which is like, man, it's going to feel so good. Katie, nothing will, I'm not picking on you for 1 second because I think you're awesome and I think you're going to crush it with this. The feeling of satisfaction that you will get if you do a power hour 4 days next week with your group, and we're going to do this together as a group. If you go and make the calls and you survive, you will have such a feeling of satisfaction. You will have worked through this thing that was stressful for you. And you will know, by the way, that as a loan officer who made lukewarm calls for 4 hours last week, that you probably did more than 99% of the loan officers in this country. And that's how you're going to get the top 1% of results. How many of you guys have worked places where loan officers routinely spent 4 hours a week in a structured way making cold calls or lukewarm phone calls to realtors? Paige, Anthony. It's pretty rare, guys. It takes real discipline. Most sales leaders are afraid to even ask anybody. I would have done this 2 years ago. Everyone was like, I got too much money. I don't have time for this. I got too many loans coming in. So we didn't do it then. Now everyone's willing to, got a little extra time on their hands. Great. Let's dive in. Let's create the habits. Let's do it. Right? Suddenly everyone's willing to listen for new ideas. We're going to have fun with this. Right? And yes, you will have anxiety before you go make that first phone call every day. There is a pretty good chance that if we do this at 11 a.m. every day, which is kind of time I'm thinking right now, that you will have a little bit of anxiety from the minute you open your eyes in the morning until 11 a.m. every day for those first couple of weeks. You will dread it. You will literally stare at the clock and think about the things in the morning, and you'll be like, it'll be sucking your mental energy. That's why it's so important. Because it's hard and because most people won't do it. That's it, right? Most people won't do it, and you will not die. You will feel better. No one ever regrets a workout. No one ever regrets a power hour. No one ever like, I can't believe I wasted my time calling those realtors and having those conversations. It's like, no, you're going to become way inspired. You're going to have at least one lead that's worth pursuing. You'll have a new Facebook friend that comes out of it. You'll learn something cool about somebody. Maybe you'll find out something about, I'll tell you, my conversation with Marley yesterday, it was like a gimmick conversation I was going to post on YouTube for you guys. And I learned 2 things on there that I had no idea about that are central to what we do in this business. That's awesome stuff. And that's what you can learn from these calls. So we got to go out and make the calls. Here's the other thing, guys. And by the way, I'm not always necessarily looking to close. If your conversation goes great, your close on this is setting up another time to meet, right? Or inviting this person to come view a sales training with you if you want. Or maybe we'll do some realtor-based sales trainings over the next quarter that I'll have you can invite people to, right? It's like another value add. Maybe it's a copy of a book you want to send them or a discussion. Maybe you guys get a couple of realtors you like and you start a mastermind group in your area where you guys can exchange ideas. And now the value add is that you're the one hosting the mastermind group, right? Figure out what your value, but your closing is, hey, I'd love to set up another call with you, connect with you on social media, get going with it. Use your instincts for this. It's okay to leave this call with nothing other than, hey, it was really nice to meet you. I look forward to our paths crossing again, and then getting them into our 13 by 30s. It's okay. This is a long-term play. It's a long-term play. Questions, comments, or thoughts?
Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
Just just touching base on it, that part you just mentioned about going for the close or not going for the close. I think that's the biggest part for me right now, is trying to feel that out, right? And how to do it effectively. And then also coming to terms with, if you're not able to close, say you do the power hour, you've had, a good number of conversations, but you're not closing anybody. Like how do you keep your mindset in the right place with that?
How many realtors do you think in your market do more than 4 buy sides a year?
I a lot.
Couple hundred?
Yeah.
You need to know all of them. And so at the end of the day, like, this is just about that. And I think that's like the minimum, is like, I want to get to know all these players in my market to figure out who they are, right? It's less than you think, right? So that's the motivation, is, well, I got to meet everybody on the team, right? The second piece of it is, guys, this is something we learn to lie to ourselves about this, but I think if you really look in your heart and intuition, you can always feel it. Is this person moving towards me or away from me? When someone's moving towards me, you can ask for the next thing. When someone's moving away from you, unless it's a transactional sale, right? Like when I was in the call center and it was like, if they hang up, I may never talk to them again. If someone's moving away from me, I was closing no matter what. I was like, Visa or MasterCard for the appraisal, buddy. And I was going for it every time. So there was a 1% chance I would get it, I was going for it. And by the way, I got those 1% 50% of the time. You just can't read it. If you go for it, you can go for it. But in this situation here, it's a relationship. It's like, hey, this person enjoyed this conversation. Are they moving towards me? Are they excited about it? Or was it awkward where they're like, all right, cool, man, I got to go. And you're like, well, when can we meet again? That's not the moment, right? If someone's moving away from you, be like, yes, I really enjoyed the conversation. Look forward to us keeping in touch. Then put them in a 13 by 30. Let them see your social media posts for the next 3 weeks. Find a reason to call them. Hey, you mentioned on this call that you thought the market was going to go this way. I saw this article that supports what you were saying, or that talks about that. I wanted to share it with you. Send it to them, right? Or you call and be like, hey, I'm going to shoot this article over to you. Let me know what you think. And you're starting a dialogue where you're providing value and you're having a conversation where you're not asking for anything. So again, we want to keep providing value until this person starts moving towards us. You know what's really weird? The David Powell guy was a little awkward when he called me, but over the last 3 weeks, I've actually learned a lot from his posts. And the fact that he thought about me and sent me that thing, maybe even print out the article and mail it to them. Right? Like, wow. Right? My loan officer's never done shit for me. Maybe I will have that coffee with David Powell. Right? And I will tell you guys, a thoughtful, unexpected gift. I want to say this again. This is not just about mortgages or anything else. This is a life lesson. A thoughtful, unexpected gift at an unexpected time will make most people a raving fan for life. That same realtor I met with last night and had those drinks with, she had another realtor with her, who that realtor had met one of her past clients, somebody she had done 6 or 7 transactions with. And they couldn't shut up about how much they liked this other realtor, the top 10 realtor. And the other day it was, this person had said that they found out at the very end of their home buying process that the oven was not the kind of oven they wanted. And so the realtor went out and got that oven, had it installed in the house as a gift after the closing. So that when they walked to their new house, they had the oven they wanted. And that was like 8 years ago. And she said, Mark, I tell you, not only have I done 6 other houses for that person, but they've referred me at least 25 or 30 other clients I've done houses for. That oven has made me well over $1 million. Right? When you add up the numbers, like, that's what I'm talking about. Like that, those numbers are crazy. So unexpected gift, unexpected. It doesn't have to be something expensive. An oven might seem expensive when somebody's buying a $1.5 million house. $1,000 oven is not expensive for the realtor's commission, right? It's the thought of it. It's the thoughtfulness of that person having to go do that work, or having their oven on their first night in their new house. Another one, she said that this woman was buying her first house. She was so excited about the fact that she was going to do her own landscaping and gardening. She's like really jazzed about it. And so the realtor had in the garage, when this person walked in the house, had a wheelbarrow and all these garden tools and all this everything else that were made for that person. And I was like, man, it's very easy to see how this person became a top 10 realtor. They have an instinct for the unexpected gift at the unexpected time. Are you being thoughtful about this? I'll tell you, a person in my life that I know at Princeton Mortgage that stands out in this way? Josh Catagano is always thoughtful, always, in a way that is like very intrinsic to him. Small things all the time. Jamie Russin is super thoughtful, small ways all the time. They're on. It makes people love them. It makes me love them. And I'm a pretty hard-hearted person when it comes to stuff. You can't really win me over with like little things, but they have. Right? And so I point that out because it stands out. So if you want, so this is about starting a relationship where you're going to listen and look for opportunities for that organic thing, right? Now, if that realtor goes and buys everybody an oven or everybody gardening stuff, they're going to be like, this is really weird. What makes it special is it was for them. It was thoughtful. Realtor gifts where the realtor has like their own cutting board or whatever they give out to everybody, or like this thing, it's like, thank you for the cutting board, but it's not going to make me fall in love with that person. But that realtor knowing what's important to me, or that loan officer knowing what's important to me, and getting that specific thing for me in a thoughtful way that took time, raving fan for life. Okay. Any other questions or thoughts? I hope that helps, David. I hope that helps. This is with it. It's guys. This is about just if you know every realtor in your area, and you're, by the way, you do what you say you're going to do. Because the only time this goes wrong is like there's some very well-known people in the Charleston community, both in the real estate and loan officer side, that everyone just kind of dislikes. I don't think we have any people here like that. But the reason they're disliked is because they often don't do what they say they're going to do, or they say they're going to do things they don't do. Simple as that. If you're a person of integrity and you're well known, you will get business. So this is how you want to get known, and you want to have integrity. And that's the main mission on these calls. Any other questions?
Not a question, but just to let everybody know, there's a great book on the gift part of what Mark was talking about called Giftology. Fantastic book. So I would write that down, look it up. Other thing, just as a funny note, I bet if somebody's buying a $1.5 million house, that's a $15,000 oven, not a $1,000 oven.
Are there $15,000 ovens?
Oh yeah, Austin's got one picked out right now. So
I think that's silly. I really do.
Yep.
I don't get it. The food cooks, I can't cook that much better, in my opinion. I don't know. I don't cook. I do eat.
It's the
cook that much
design, not
better.
so much
It
the
looks
functionality.
prettier.
Yeah, it looks better.
Oh, cool.
Got a question.
Everybody's got their shit, man. Everybody's got their things. Guys, what do you have? Something? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to I kind of visual of the funnel kind of stuck with me, the skinnier, things to ask. My favorite realtor, I always ask her when she first got in the business. I knew her long before she was in the business. She became the rookie of the year. So once a year, I always ask her who the rookie of the year is in her office. And then that gives me one person a year that I always, try to get to. So I thought I'd contribute that.
Yeah. Who are the last 3 listing agents or the last 3 agents that you did a deal with, and what was the experience like? Well, these 2 are great. This one sucked. Cool. Would you mind if I called those other 2 people and told them that you thought it was great? Like, that's it, right? It's just the narrowing of the funnel really helps. I completely agree, Woody, right? And so be creative with it. So we're going to continue. I'm going to have this script finalized for tomorrow's training, and we'll send it out. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about specifically about how we're going to transition these conversations into the 2-1 buy down as a value add for these calls, and how we can train on it. I'll also send out that YouTube clip that you guys can watch with Marley and I, because I think it talks about some good information about how and where you can get listing agents to put this information in that will help them both sell the house and will help you potentially get the loan. Right. So now all of a sudden, like, we're always looking about buy sides, but hey, when those guys do listings, can they reference the 2-1 buy down option in the private notes for what the concession would be and tell them that you have a preferred lender for it? The answer is yes, you can put that stuff in the private notes for realtors. And so is that something we can be working with our sellers agents on as another value add, right? Especially if you guys are doing MSAs with realtors. Part of your MSA deal could be like, dude, this is the message I want in your private notes. Right? Like we can do some, like if you guys are paying for it, like great, like let's talk about what that is. And so we're going to dive into some of that stuff tomorrow. Any other questions or thoughts on this topic from you? Anything we want to cover tomorrow as an extension of this? And again, by the way, you have to have your My 25 list and your prospect list first. You should be sending out the 13 by 30s. Like the more people you have in your database already, the easier it is to grow your database. So still, if you're starting out and you don't have the database, hit the open houses. It's still the best way to get going with this stuff. Any other questions? All right, guys, please rate the training. Tell me all the things that can be doing better. I appreciate the feedback all the time. And let's have a huge sales day. Get out there. Remember, motion creates positive emotion. Go out there, get going, do the stuff, be busy. And I'll see you guys in training tomorrow. Happy selling, everybody.